This is The Toss-Up, where an expert line panel dissects the hottest stories within the world of sports. From some of the nation's strongest college programs right here in Bloomington to the games and moments that capture the world's attention, it's all right here on The Toss-Up. The Jeff Mercer era in Bloomington is in, no pun intended here, full swing. After winning their first game of the season, the Hoosiers dropped 4 of their next 5 and struggled to bring runs home. Since then, they've found their stride, winning close, low-scoring rock fights and high-scoring roller coasters. And with the first Big Ten series in the books, a convincing sweep of Iowa, Indiana has its eyes focused on winning the Big Ten. Behind 15 combined homers from Matt Gorski and Cole Barr and strikeout machine Tanner Gordon, this season has the potential to be one of the more entertaining ones in recent memory. Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Toss-Up. My name is Michael Dugan. Joining me on the panel this week, we've got a trio of IUS TV baseball reporters. On the end, we have Austin Matricardi. Right in the middle, we have Jared Rigdon. And right next to me, we have the lovely Swiss Army knife, Matt Cohen. Matt, we'll go to you first. This team started 2-4 after the first 6 games, 2-4. Now they're 15-8. What changed?
Simply put, they started putting the bat on the ball. I mean, it just sounds stupid to keep it that simple, but it really has been. The offense over the last, they had an 8-game win streak that got them to 15-8 heading into the Kent State game on Wednesday. And during that 8-game streak, they were outscoring opponents 89-33. So that's, I mean, not only was the pitching pretty good over that stretch, but just outscoring people by 66 runs. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere better to start with that the offense was just actually doing something. I mean, especially you look like guys like Matt Gorski, Grant Richardson. I mean, Gorski was a guy that we thought would be one of the key guys on this team this season, but I mean, Grant Richardson, I'm sure we'll talk about him a lot more on this toss-up, but wow. He's at the week that we're recording this, he was the Big Ten player and Big Ten freshman of the week. I mean, as a freshman, he's come in over 10 games. He's hitting over 360, second on the team in RBIs already. I mean, he's been one of the key catalysts for this 8-game win streak.
Yeah, they're getting back to playing fundamental baseball, and Jeff Mercer kind of talked about that a lot. I mean, they're hitting with runners in scoring position. They're getting players on base, and when they do that, that allows them to steal bases and play the situation a little bit more. And once the hitting started to kind of catch up with the pitching, it's been pretty dominant, led by Paulie Milto and Tanner Gordon and Andrew Saalfrank a little bit. Everything started to come together for this Hoosier ball club.
Well, with the new coaching staff, there came new approaches at the plate, and I think that's what kind of lent itself to the slump at the beginning of the season. They were still trying to figure out what they were supposed to be doing at the plate. You know, in the Chris Lamonis era, things were a little bit different, less fundamental focused, more smash the ball over the fence a lot focused. And Indiana was good at that, and Indiana's continued to be good at smashing the ball over the fence a lot. But I think that they just got into their approaches. They finally figured it out, and then their talent was able to break through.
How good has Matt Gorski been? Put it into words.
Matt Gorski is probably the best collegiate baseball player I've seen personally. I believe
Period?
He's the closest thing to a 5-tool player that I've seen in college baseball. I haven't been covering college baseball a long time, but I've seen quite a few players. Matt Gorski is just unbelievable. He can hit for average. He can hit for power. He's got a huge arm, can play any of the 3 outfield positions and first base, and he's also just lightning quick. He's a 5-tool player.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously easily the best player that Indiana has. I mean, you saw the 3 games that he was out against Tennessee. They struggled to put up any runs at all. He comes back in the lineups, kind of rejuvenates the offense a little bit. I mean, like you said, he can hit. He can play all 3 outfield positions. And he's really a leader off the field, too. Grant Richardson talked about when he would go into the cages during the winter that he would kind of look and model what Gorski was doing, and then he'd go in there and do the same thing. So he's really a role model to these younger kids. He's like a senior, but playing as a junior. But he has a level of production as a senior, and he's got the leadership of a senior, and that's really starting to pay dividends for this IU ball club.
He's also been just really consistent overall. I mean, during this run that IU's had of the offense kind of getting it together and putting up all these runs, I don't think we've talked much about Matt Gorski because we've been so focused on the production of guys like, Grant Richardson or Ryan Feynman or Matt Lloyd or even Cole Barr. And as those kind of guys that are maybe more role players on this team, whereas Gorski's the star, have been doing well, they've gotten the attention. And in the midst of that, Gorski he hasn't dropped off at all. It's not like he's been playing poorly. He's been playing the same old Matt Gorski. He's the leader on the team in RBIs. I mean, even missing those 3 games, still the team leader in RBIs with I believe 18 on the season. I mean, he's been nothing short of incredible. As you guys said, he is the best player on this team. I think he'll be a first-round pick in the Major League Baseball draft coming up.
A lot of question marks surrounding that pitching rotation, that pitching staff as a whole, coming into the season throughout the summer, throughout the fall, throughout the winter. Who has stepped up on the bump?
So I think the obvious answer here is Paulie Milto, but just for sake of kind of being different, is I'd go with Tanner Gordon. He's a guy that struggled a lot through his first couple of starts as a Hoosier, but against Canisius and against Iowa, his last 2 starts, he's figured it out. He's the Big Ten pitcher of the week for this week. He had 12 strikeouts against Iowa on Saturday. He's finally learning how to pitch at the Division I level, and he's coming from John A. Logan College. IU's had guys that have come from Logan College. Logan Khalith, probably the most other notable example. They've come and they've produced quickly at the Division I level, but going from Johnny Logan College to the Big Ten is not easy. And Tanner Gordon has taken some time to figure it out, but I think he's finally gotten there.
I think Gabe Bierman has stepped up a little bit. He's a freshman. No one really knew exactly what kind of role he'd come into. I mean, they had their 3 starters come into the season. Tommy Sumner goes down with an injury. Andrew Saalfrank steps into that Sunday role. Now Gabe Bierman's pretty much the most experienced midweek starter, and he's been the most consistent. And I asked Jeff Mercer on Wednesday after the Kent State game, have you considered going to Gabe Bierman in that Sunday role? And he's been so good that no one else has stepped up behind him. Gabe Bierman has got to fill that midweek role in comparison to that Sunday role. Gabe Bierman has been honestly one of the most consistent players they've had. Pitching-wise, too, he had 3 no-hit innings on Wednesday. So to me, honestly, the freshman in Gabe Bierman, we talk a lot about Richardson, but Bierman's another freshman that stepped up a lot this year.
Bierman's been great. He had a lot of hype coming out of the southern Indiana area. I believe he was a Jeffersonville guy. Yeah, he was really good in high school. I know that I was excited to see him.
The fighting Phil Steinmetzes.
Yes, that's correct. The guy that I think has stepped up this year has actually been Connor Manis. Last year he worked a little bit as a starter. He did some Sunday stuff. He did some midweek stuff. This year he's been in the bullpen, and he's been a reliable piece for Indiana, and in middle relief, they haven't had too many reliable pieces, so that's what makes him so huge. He's kind of become almost a third closer. It's tough to say you got 3 closers, but Matt Lloyd is a guy that can't always get out to the bullpen to get warmed up, and you can only ride Cal Kruger so much. We saw that last year when he kind of fell a little bit in production because he'd been used so often. Now, Connor Manis is a guy that he can stretch out, he can throw a couple of innings, and he can also come in and close out games. And I think I've been very impressed by Connor Manis.
All right, gentlemen, stay where you are. All of you stay where you are. We're cutting to break, but coming up after the break, we're going to hand out some near midseason awards, look into our crystal balls to see where this team ends up in the Big Ten, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Toss-Up. We're talking IU baseball, but before we keep going, let's toss it over to Max Heath at the media wall. Max?
Chicks dig the long ball, right? At least that's what Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux thought in their 1999 Nike commercial. However, it's first-year coach Jeff Mercer, who's become quite the fan of the long ball himself. The Hoosiers have a 15-9 record on the year, with a large part of those 15 wins coming with help from the deep ball. Indiana far and away leads the Big Ten in home runs, leading the second-place Ohio State Buckeyes by 14 home runs with a team total of 39. The Hoosiers have been knocking the cover off the baseball. In a road game against the talented Indiana State team, Indiana had 5 different players hit home runs in just one game. The driving force behind this long ball-oriented team has been Cole Barr. Barr leads the Big Ten with 9 home runs, but his teammates aren't far behind. 5-tool MLB draft prospect Matt Gorski is second on the team with 6 home runs, and seniors Matt Lloyd and Ryan Feynman share the third spot with 5 apiece. In total, Indiana has 9 players with double-digit home runs already. It's no secret that this team can hit for power, and the production hasn't just been from the veterans. Freshman Grant Richardson has taken collegiate baseball by storm. He's hitting .366 with 4 doubles and 3 home runs and 17 RBIs in just 10 starts. The Hoosiers have production oozing out of their lineup. Jeff Mercer has to be happy with what he's seen so far, and it's only the beginning for this ball club. Back to you, Michael.
All right, guys, we're going to play Tell Me Why. Austin, right over to you. Tell me why this team will win the Big Ten.
We've talked about this before, and I think it's because they've got a pretty easy conference schedule. They didn't draw some of the tougher teams. They got weekend series against Rutgers and against Michigan State because, of course, they don't play a round robin in the Big Ten. So I think the schedule lends itself to Indiana winning the conference. They're a talented team, and they can win the conference. The schedule is just a huge boost, though.
I think that the offense is going to continue to step up and produce at this high level. Obviously, maybe not the 89 runs over 8 games, but at the same time, they're going to start to produce runs, get consistent offense, and then the pitching is going to be good enough to get them over the hump.
So, awesome. We've had this conversation on our podcast, the Extra Base podcast, IUS TV is very on baseball podcast, a fair amount, and about is the Big Ten good, is it not good?
It's really hard to tell.
It's hard to tell, right? Exactly. I think at this point in the season, we don't know who's good.
Michigan State's not good.
we're just-
Michigan State is not good.
Yeah,
That's
we're
correct.
just kind of
Rutgers-
waiting to find out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams like Iowa, Maryland, Ohio State,
Penn State.
teams that are they good? We don't know. We'll figure it out. And I think that's the reason why IU has a chance to win the Big Ten, because they are in a group of teams that we know they are good. That group I would kind of generally have as Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota right now, with probably, I'd argue Illinois may be the best team right now.
Indiana State just did.
Yeah, they did just lose to Indiana State.
Yeah, but Indiana State's proven, they're 20-2.
Indiana State's decent.
Yeah,
Illinois could be the best team.
Yeah, but obviously we'll see, because I don't think any of us know Minnesota's one of the better teams in the conference. They have a sub 500 record right now. So I think just generally being that the Big Ten has a lot of good teams, or that maybe they aren't that good, we don't know. But not a lot of great teams, I think, is the reason why IU has a chance to win the Big Ten, because they can win some of these series against teams that are pretty even with them from a talent perspective.
Pick up a couple of those names you just dropped and use those against Indiana now, and tell me why this team will not win the Big Ten.
Minnesota's really good. Minnesota was my preseason pick, and even though they're a sub 500 overall record right now, they're 3-0 in the conference. I'm sticking with them. I still think Minnesota wins this conference. That pitching staff has 2 potential All-Americans on it, in Max Meyer and Patrick Fredrickson. And I just don't know how you win a series with 2, MLB caliber pitchers on Friday and Saturday.
Why I don't think they win the Big Ten is that IU has the tendency to kill themselves too much. We saw on Wednesday they had 6 errors and they walked 12 batters, and Jeff Mercer was plain and simply just not happy with the effort that the Hoosiers gave. They have a tendency to make errors in the field. Strikeout numbers are too high a lot of the time, so I think if they're not going to win the Big Ten, it's because that they killed themselves.
I'm going to say that it's because the bullpen crumbles. I think that so far this season, the performances of Milto and Gordon have kind of lent themselves, at least recently, to that bullpen kind of being rested and being able to go out, and they can use the same guys, every weekend. But I think that once you get into the depth of that bullpen, things might get a little interesting. I think that's going to happen later in the season. There's going to be a stretch where Indiana's going to need that bullpen to step up and make some big pitches, and I'm not sure if they can outside of Manis, Kruger, and Lloyd.
I'm going to give you a few more options here other than telling you what to think and tell me exactly what I want to hear. Pick a series, any series. There are a lot of them left. Tell me why that series that you have selected is the most important series left for the Indiana Hoosiers.
They go up to Ann Arbor next month, I believe.
Yeah, mid-May.
It's after school lets out, I know.
Okay. That is the most important series for me, because you're playing another one of those teams that is one of the best teams in the conference, and you're playing them on the road. That's one where if you can win that series, if you can somehow sweep that series, that puts you in the driver's seat in the Big Ten. That is one that everybody should have circled on their calendars. I should go home and I should circle it on my calendar because I can't remember when it is. So it's huge, though. Those 2 teams, it's going to be a marquee matchup in the Big Ten. huge.
I think one of the biggest series is when they go to Champaign. It's the first weekend after school lets out. I mean, players are done with classes, but then you still have to focus on baseball. It's in the middle of a grueling stretch that features a home series against Minnesota, a road series against Illinois, and a road series against Michigan. Throw in a midweek game against Louisville. That's a tough 10 games right there. So if you can kind of get 2 out of 3 maybe in Champaign, get some momentum heading into that Michigan series, I think the Illinois one could be very important for the focus of this team and for the overall outlook of this team.
It's going to be a heck of a resume builder, too, because Illinois is a team that's been ranked
Very high in
widely.
the RPI.
Yeah, that's a great team over there at Illinois. They're ranked in multiple polls. So if you can win that series, then that's huge on your resume, too.
I mean, and that 10-game stretch might be a chance for IU to put itself in
take the lead.
Yeah, to not only take the lead in the Big Ten, but if you can go through that 10-game stretch, win 7 of those games, including the midweek game against Louisville, are you suddenly in position to maybe host a regional?
Possibly.
I mean, because just generally knowing how the Big Ten is, I think that's by far the toughest stretch of the Big Ten season. The rest of it, I'm not particularly worried about. Yeah, I mean, I think if you can come out of that winning 7 or 8 out of 10, you might be in position to host a regional.
You're in the driver's seat in the Big Ten. You might host a regional. That's a huge stretch.
Yeah, so I will actually complete our series here with the final series of that stretch, the Minnesota series here in Bloomington. And I guess that makes sense if I pick Minnesota to win the Big Ten when they come to Bloomington. I guess that kind of has to be my most important series. I mean, again, as I said in my last time around, is Max Meyer and Patrick Fredrickson are 2 All-American caliber pitchers. If you can find a way to beat one of them, and especially the Saturday starter, because if you lose, I would assume that's going to probably be a Paulie Milto versus Fredrickson game on the Friday.
Sign me up for that.
That's going to be an incredible baseball game.
Yeah, if you can find a TV,
Please
flip
get
that
there.
game on.
I think that one's on BTN too.
I think so, yeah.
I think national TV picked up one of those Minnesota
Yeah,
games.
it definitely does. I think that's the only nationally televised game in Bloomington this year. But if you can, I mean, that game between Fredrickson and Milto, probably that's a toss-up. But if you can find a way with Tanner Gordon to beat Max Meyer, didn't even notice that. That was good. But if Tanner Gordon can find a way to outduel Max Meyer, I mean, that might give IU a chance to win the Big Ten.
All right, we're past academic midterms here, but we're coming up on baseball midterms. About halfway through the season, we're about a week or two away from the halfway point. So we're going to hand out some mid-ish season awards for our lightning round. Your answers have to be 10 seconds or less. Austin, we'll go to you first. Who has been the breakout star for this team?
Grant Richardson, hands down. The kid is a beast. He hasn't played a whole lot, but he's put up some huge numbers.
Cole Barr, he wasn't much of an impact last year. Leads the Big Ten in home runs, leads IU in home runs, 9 home runs overall. He pretty simply rakes out of that 5 or 6 hole.
Just to not say Richardson again, I'll go with Tanner Gordon just because of the way he's pitched over the last 2 starts with double-digit strikeouts in each outing.
Best newcomer.
Grant Richardson. I mean,
Teed you up for that one.
Yeah,
Huh?
I mean, maybe Tanner Gordon is the only other newcomer. I mean, I don't know between those two. It's probably Richardson's the way he's played over the last 10 games.
I mean, I've been high on Richardson. I wrote about him after that Canisius series, but also I think Gabe Bierman is a breakout, and he's become their most consistent midweek guy. And those games can be even as crucial as a Big Ten series game because those wins matter at the end of the year.
Grant Richardson, I already explained why.
Great. Which one of you three is feeling brave right now? Who does not want to take Paulie Milto for this next one? Who can make the case for
I got
someone?
it.
You got
Got
it,
it.
Austin. Start us off. Most valuable pitcher.
I think it's Paulie Milto.
Yeah.
He's a tone setter, Big Ten pitcher of the year type. I think he's pretty good at baseball.
Yeah, Paulie Milto's good, but Connor Manis has appeared in over half of IU's games this year. He's probably their best reliever this year. I mean, he's been crucial out of that bullpen for IU.
Whoa, I thought I was going to have to take someone other than Paulie Milto. All right, then. Now that Jared took someone else, I'll go with Paulie Milto. Austin said it. He is the ace of this team. He's the guy that sets the tone for the weekend. I think he's a serious contender for the Big Ten Pitcher of the Year right now.
And it's been that way for 2 years, 3 years now. He's been a rock for this team.
He maybe hasn't gotten the same attention with a guy like Jonathan Stever on the roster, but now that Milto's gotten that Friday role, he's really taken to it quickly and been the exact same guy.
Just out of curiosity and for the sake of content, who was your other name that you were
It was going to be Manis.
It was? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's really a two-man race here. All right, it's the end of the show. Everybody gets one more word. One word is your limit on the rest of the way for Indiana baseball. Austin, you're thinking really hard, so I'm going to go to Matt here.
I'm going to go with uncertainty.
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 Okay.
Potential.
Intensity.
You two had a little bit of the same theme going on there. A lot of curiosity remaining.
Not quite sure where this is going to go. There's a
Yeah,
lot of tough
that's-
games. There's a lot of up and down performances so far, but there's players intact, and there's potential chances to win, to be in a position to host or even to be a 2 seed come the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
That's what makes college baseball so fun. Uncertainty. That's what makes baseball so fun.
That's what makes sports so
That's
much
what
fun.
isn't that why we love sports?
That's what makes life so fun, guys. I mean, really.
Everything
get
is
to that?
fun, let's be honest.
All right, guys, thanks for coming in. And that does it for the show this week. Be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on Facebook at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you might have. Toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next time.